Welcome back to the library, dear wanderers. Today we're heading back to the hidden nest, back to the first oak shelf, where we'll pick up the first work we see. This one is a short poem brought to the library by Claus the Closet. Now without further ado, Mental River. The mental storm killing inspirationally, blurred stars along the alcoholic melody. Sinking low notes with burnt pain. My frustrated music, once a wish, now a dead spider with tired, curled, long legs. A river like a black hole, absorbing me, second by second by second. Leaving a pile of sand for the red wind to take, and the hateful waves to swallow. I do always love a lovely little poem. This next work was brought to us by Everhue, and it comes with a quick content warning. Mouth full of white lies. Content warning. Violence, implied suicidal tendencies, and arson. You flirt with danger like you flirt with any other girl or girl-aligned NPAL, reckless and without hesitation. Living comes easy to you when you've got the thrill of the hunt in your blood or the taste of a lover on your lips. The need pounds in your head like a hangover, and when you bleed, you make whoever cut you hurt twice as much. When you were weak, just a child and then just a teen, folks told you so many things with condescension barely concealed behind pleases and questions. Violence was bad, didn't you know? Didn't you? They said, Anya, slow down. They said, Anya, what do you think you're doing? They said, Anya, stop, you're hurting him. But it's not like they had two shits when he was hurting you. So I listen. Why listen to a bunch of meaningless nobodies when you got the beat of your own heart to march to? You hurt and you hurt, till there was nobody left to hurt, not even yourself. You went too far, crossing lines that you couldn't even see, and you turned people against you with every too long glare or mistimed comment. Every Casey, the only one who you ever thought understood you, left, babbling some bullshit about an infinite library and home. You don't need home. You need to run. If the library they spoke of was real, you wanted to toss a match and light it aglow just to see how bright the fire would burn. You'd suck in the smoke your lungs consumed, and maybe you'd finally feel like you'd caught what you'd been hunting for this whole time. But when you looked, and by the God you hate you looked, the ways slammed shut. Even as Casey fell through them with ease, that same damned hand you used to hold made cold metal. You wanted to rip it out of their remaining skin, leaving them nothing but rusty gears and fucked up nerves, but they were gone already. You wanted to kill them slowly for leaving. You wanted to touch them, feel their hands on every part of you, their life so strong, and rest your head against their chest, softer than you've ever been. You wanted to never think about them again. If they were gonna play devil, you'd oblige. You'd be their tyrant god. You'd make them pay with their blood and bone. And all the while, you kept burning, furious. Your boss said, "Anya, you're being reckless." Ain't we called the Chaos Insurgency? We're not the reasonable and well-thought-out Decisions Rebellion. I don't judge your pining over that O5 bitch. Your squad mate said, "Anya, you have to let them go," like you've done, burying all your concerns 6 feet under. Casey said, "Anya, I need you to," and they didn't finish that sentence. Did you tear out their throat with your 2 sharp teeth, or shove them against the wall, tilting their head up just right for kissing? You don't know. Your memory's fogged up. One of these days, your squad mates are gonna get the order to shoot you, to put you down because you're a liability, too feral for even this insurgency, full of those damn too unethical for what most folks saw as the worst of the worst. You think you'll relish it? You've got a death wish, sharp and clean, and you got all the reckless bravado in the world pushing you onwards. Cruel, cruel. Mercy tastes like ash. Brutality makes you live. A powerful short story, and one from the Chaos Insurgency, no less. But we should move on to the next work. This one brought to us by Dr. Cuddles. Something about penguins? I never did trust birds. The Antarctic Model, a failed experiment in ecological engineering. An editorial by Marty Gerdy. Penguins are a highly controversial issue, and the question of what to do with them is a complex one. Throughout our history, penguins always suffered from an unsavory reputation. We tell our children fairy tales about the penguin sorceress who stole the secret of ice from the Great Refrigerator. Many people still believe that New Atlantis was sunk when it collided with a rogue iceberg sailing under a penguin flag. Today, the ecological stigma against a penguin is stronger than ever. The public opinion often conflates the issue with various criminal and antisocial behaviors. Rainforest denizens are worried about their tropical neighborhood becoming inhospitable and littered with frozen glaciers. They are concerned that the presence of penguins will attract larger predators, such as polar bears. Anti-penguin activists often exploit the fears of uninformed citizens, consciously ignoring the fact that these creatures hail from different hemispheres. It has never been illegal in our enlightened enclave to be a penguin or for anyone to feed a penguin. However, a number of archaic and confusing criminal laws made it extremely difficult for penguins to thrive in our nation. Recently, in the landmark ruling in the case of Pengu versus the Attorney General, our nation's Supreme Court struck down the 3 provisions of the criminal code restricting penguins. The court found these articles of the law to be unconstitutional because they prevented penguins from taking reasonable measures to protect themselves while engaged in a risky, but not illegal, avian condition. These provisions are: 1. Keeping or being found in a penguin habitat. This provision was deemed grossly disproportionate to its stated goal of preventing public nuisance. 2. Living off the avails of penguins. This provision was considered to be overboard, for example, by preventing penguins from hiring herrings. 3. Communicating in public with a penguin. This provision was also ruled to be grossly disproportionate to its objective. Now, our Minister of Justice has to get down to some careful decision-making. Political posturing. The defunct penguin law were overreaching and did not even provide a clear definition of penguin. Whatever new law is adopted, it must not be based on vague community standards for flightless avian lifeforms. I know a penguin when I see one. as these will not pass constitutional muster in the future. Supposing we can agree on what constitutes a penguin, how then should our laws deal with them? In kingdoms like Noisyland and the Nederlands, penguin fanciers can find luxurious indoor replicates of penguin ecosystems, ranging from polar to temperate climates. The avian exogens enjoy the same benefits as traditional life forms, such as the right to unionize and create their own bowling teams. Given its conservative ideology, it is unlikely that our government would take this avenue. Instead, our leaders appear to be considering an adaptation of the so-called Antarctic model. In addition to being a confirmed failure in Antarctica, even a plankton can see that it would be unconstitutional in light of the Pengu decision. These are all qualities that make it very attractive to our present government. The Antarctic model was spearheaded in the South Pole by members of the Radical Phoenix movement, who perceived penguinhood as inherently exploitative. The Antarctic laws aim to abolish penguins by targeting demand rather than criminalizing the penguins themselves. Proponents of this asymmetrical criminalization argue that penguins are passive victims maintained helplessly in an evolutive cul-de-sac. They hope that when people finally stop saying things like, "Oh, look at the cute bird walking down the street," then penguins will get off their asses and evolve into proper birds with flight capabilities. This echoes the sentiments of fundamentalist flamingos who claim that wings should be used for their intended purpose of flying. They do not want to explain to their hatchlings why those birds are ice skating on their bellies or swimming underwater. For flamingos, a bird who does not or cannot fly should have the decency of hiding its head in shame, preferably by burying it in the ground. 15 million years after the adoption of the Antarctic penguin laws, it is clear that the experiment is a failure. The Antarctic government cannot produce any evidence showing that there has been a decline in the numbers of penguins. Admittedly, less people now go to Antarctica to look for penguins. However, this is because most penguin enthusiasts now make contact via the internet, rather than by curb sailing around the frozen shores of Prisda Bay. The model did not accomplish its stated goal, and penguins on the ice floes report that the laws that were supposed to help them has made their existence even more dangerous. The continent is now a frigid wasteland where penguins have to survive under conditions that are harsher than ever. I, for one, am not surprised by this deplorable result. When navigating the crazy mountains of life, a moral compass is a poor substitute for a realistic understanding of the landscape. Professor Noctlu of the Kraken's Institute advocates that penguins must remain free to orient their own evolution. "We have evidence suggesting that penguins may be on the path leading them to become fully aquatic creatures. They can't fly worth shit, but they swim like angels, telling them how they should use their rostral appendages. That won't do any good." Some of the more liberal cephalopod leaders in the Black Depths go a step further and now encourage inbreeding. However, many other Pricen sentients are voicing concerns about how these evolutive avenues would jeopardize their own traditional biological arrangement. Yes, the situation is complex. In a kingdom that prides itself on its biological pluralisms, it is troubling that complacent opinions often carry more weight than rational arguments. Is it not time that we stop listening to the irrational babble of our vestigial human brain? See, even birds don't like birds. But for now, we should move on to the next work, but we're going to skip one, because the next work is Mesotheism Part 1 by Din Bydor, and that was already read in their author's spotlight. For now, we'll move on to the next work then. This one was brought to the library by Sebaris. Now, without further ado, schooling on Earth. Considering moving to Earth, maybe after work, maybe running away from the conditions on your planet? Do you have children? If you do, you're probably thinking about educating them on this bizarre but wonderful planet. Maybe you are even wondering about educational options for yourself on Earth. Well, not to worry, this travel brochure will hold all the information you need to know about the education you or your child or hatchling or larva will receive on Earth. Price. Education on most of Earth nowadays is either free or relatively cheap. Your best bet is pretty much any of the countries in the Northern Hemisphere, where education is high quality and low of price. But if cold climates don't fare well with your species, you would probably do well with countries like Australia, Brazil, France, or Italy as well. Depending on your race, you might also have to make some additional charges. For example, if your child does not breathe oxygen, you will need some sort of breathing apparatus not to suffocate. Or if your child does not communicate through a spoken language, they will need a translator. Humans also have 2 legs and 2 arms, and thus their school supplies and architecture are designed for this body type. So a pupil that doesn't fit this might need custom supplies. Level of education. As said before, the level of education you or your child will receive depends on what part of the world you are in. However, some races might find all education on Earth lacking. The human nervous system is not very efficient compared to many of the other sentient races. Because of this, the information they teach in schools is pretty goddamn basic. Your child will not learn anything about quantum mechanics before university. However, this also means that if your race is one of the smarter ones, your child will excel compared to their human peers, leaving plenty of time for other activities besides school. There are, however, things to be learnt on Earth that aren't as easily learned on other worlds. For example, while humans are not the most scientifically advanced race, they are quite adept in the use of magic. So if your child is interested in a career as a thaumaturge, Earth is the place to go. They are also quite creative, so if any of the traditional arts are your passion, then Earth, with its numerous different cultures and thousands of famous artists, is a good place. However, human perception is limited, so you might want to go somewhere else when you want to start using stuff like telepathic imagery or multi-dimensional colors in your art. Safety. Earth is a relatively tame planet. The gravity is pretty standard, the air is composed of oxygen, which most people breathe. There are natural disasters like earthquakes, volcanoes, strong winds, and tornadoes, but they are not as strong as on some other planets. It doesn't rain molten glass, and there are no electric sandstorms, so if those are what you are used to, then Earth will seem very tame. Humans themselves are very safe. In fact, you might be a potential danger for them. Humans are a very feeble race, without pretty much any biological protection. So if your race has a tendency to leak acid all over the place, or if your standard greeting is ripping someone's arm off because you have multiple and they grow back, then maybe reconsider moving to Earth, or at least get accustomed to weird looks from people. Transport and residency. So, is education on Earth something you would be interested in? If so, then you will obviously need to get there first, but how do you do that? There are loads of companies that offer relocation or housing services for extraterrestrials on Earth, but we at the Galactic Relocation and Housing Services are the only ones to offer both. We have empty lots on Earth, constructed to accommodate various types of life forms from various different climates. Whether you breathe sulfuric acid, have a surface temperature of 500 degrees Celsius, or require a perfect vacuum to live in, we have something for you. You, your family, and your possessions will be transported to Earth through one of our moving shuttles, in which you will be cryogenically frozen for the duration of the trip, so that if something goes horribly wrong and you die, you won't even notice. Just be sure to leave any houseplants, weaponry, grapes, and or magical artifacts that you might have at home, for these items are not allowed on our shuttles. Sounds good, doesn't it? All of this has to be expensive, right? Wrong. For the small price of 50,000 credits for moving and a rent ranging from 200 to 1,000 credits per month, and a footnote here, souls are also an acceptable form of currency. Depending on your needs, you can have your dream home on Earth today. So come on down to Galactic Relocation and Housing Services.gal to find out more about your options, life on Earth in general, and fill out a simple form that will tell us everything about you, everything we need to provide you with, everything you need, of course. We have already served 3 million customers who all study and live happy lives down on their new home planet. Why not be one of them? Seriously, why not? Am I not a good brochure? Am I not persuasive enough? All I ever wanted was to be a good salesman. Why does no one listen to me? Everyone just passes by like they don't care about our affordable prices and quality housing. Just put me back on the shelf where you found me. Why are there books everywhere? And that's all the time we have for today, dear wanderers. Thank you very much for coming. It has been an honor reading for you. Good luck out there. Hope to see you all next time. And I've got to get to editing this because there's 8 minutes left before release.